Hello, everyone, and welcome to milestone number 5 in our grant series. Let's go ahead and open up the presentation so that hopefully you'll be able to see everything on the screen. And I hope that you have been taking this opportunity over the last few weeks as we've been together and doing these sessions to review back from weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4, getting clarity on your actual goal and of course identifying steps and now most recently identifying people who would be interested in funding your project. And of course, today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking that information and we're going to be formalizing that into a letter of inquiry that's going to be going to these foundations, these specific foundations, as we'll talk about. And it's this is the most important part. So let's get right into this. Now, as I had said, welcome back to Nursing Grant Workshop. And this is milestone number 5. And today's topic, as I had said, is called the letter of inquiry. And in my opinion, this is the most important letter in terms of grants that you can write. I hope that one of the things that you'll do, as I have over many years, is keep copies of each of your letters of inquiry or templates that you've made with your clients and with, or in this case, in for your organization, and keep those copies. Identify and put as much information in the description as you can so that as you save them, you can go back and you can use those guides to do other things. But we've got some templates that we made available to you as we sent the PDF earlier in the week, so you've got that guideline, that blueprint to start with. So now, one of the first things that we want to talk about is what I have often said is probably the most common question that I am asked each time we get into the discussion of letters of inquiry, and that is, what if I can't write, creatively speaking? I can certainly put down my email, or I can put an email out or a memo out, but I'm just not a real creative writer. And that's okay. To be perfectly honest with you, I can barely put 5 words together and put them in the right order to create a sentence. But fortunately for you and for me, if you're in the same situation I am, there's people out there that just love to write that type of stuff, and they create templates. Now, a long time ago, one of my mentors had provided me with simply one of the best, most comprehensive, yet easiest to follow templates for a letter of inquiry that I have ever seen. I know that it is something that the Foundation Center in New York City uses as a template to sort of help people that may have questions about these types of things. And as you recall, last week we talked specifically about how you can access and use information that the Foundation Center makes that's free. And there's not very much of it anymore that's free, but but you can use this. I think they still have it available anyway, and if not, I'm giving it to you, so you'll have that. Just a great document, and it's a great blueprint. And we'll talk about that in a little while. But that template is what you're going to use actually as we begin this process. Now, today's session is probably going to be one of our shortest in terms of going over this information. It's probably not going to exceed a half an hour, but like I said, one of the most important that you can take the time to do so. I hope that you'll sit back and take some notes, take the PDF that I had sent earlier in the week to you, and make some notes on the side. Get a cup of coffee, and let's go ahead and let's start attacking this. Now, before you actually begin this process, you're going to want to make sure that you have your clearly defined goal right down there in front of you. You're going to want to make sure that you have those tasks that you have identified as the key tasks that are going to need to be accomplished on the way to achieving this goal, as well as each of the steps that are going to be necessary to achieve each of the tasks toward the goal. And then lastly, what you're going to want to make sure that you have is you've got that list of 3 to 5 foundations that are a mission match. kind of tough to say in a early in the morning, but you want to make sure that you have no more than 3 to 5. Actually, the list you're going to that you're going to accumulate, you might have 10 or 12 or more, which is good. That just means that you were able to find those foundations that have a close mission match to what you want to be able to achieve. But you always want to manage a list of no more than 3 to 5 at a time. And actually, I would encourage you to stick more toward 3 at a time. Because when you send these letters of inquiry out, um, those people, some of whom are going to respond back to you, if you have too many out there, it just gets, it can be too confusing. I realize that some people are extremely organized. I'll admit I'm not. But when it comes to something like this, I try and keep copious records and usually use a spreadsheet whenever I'm working with a client. I just know that it's best to keep it simple, straightforward, and the best way to do that is to manage small groups. So that said, let's go ahead and start talking about the what you're going to do, the individual steps that you need to take as you're creating this letter. Excuse me, I'm going to take a little sip of water here. Okay. Now, the first thing that you've got to make sure that you do is this letter, this highly important letter, is written to a specific person. So, a letter of inquiry is a document that's not to be used like a big direct mail mailing in hopes that you get a percentage of those people back. No, the letter of inquiry is primarily a bullseye. So, through the due diligence of what we're going to be talking about, you're going to want to look to get the very specific spelling of that person's name. Always important to make sure that the name is spelled correctly, that their title is clearly identified, and that you double check the spelling of the foundation name as well as the address, the mailing address. And not that these people move around a lot, but quite frankly, as they grow, and sometimes they grow out of spaces, well, if it's an old address, probably not good to mail it to that and then have it sent back to you, or sent to them under the wrong address, or it gets there and they see that it got there because somebody knew to forward it, but that shows that you didn't do the due diligence to look into them more closely. And the tips I always give people: always check their main website. That's going to have all this information for the most part anyway. While you're there, take a look at their news updates. Just see anything that they may have announced recently. Always good if they've recently gotten an award or they've received a very special gift from a large donor, that you identify that and that you spell that out in your letter if you can, just briefly. Also, with regard to the specific person that you are going to be sending this letter to, it's okay to check their name out on Google, LinkedIn, and Facebook. It's not because you're snooping, it's because you're looking to see if they have any very specific information about them. Have they individually been given awards recently? Something on their LinkedIn or their Facebook profile may show that they have done something significant, or it could identify some really neat project that they're in the middle of. It's always good to know about that. But this also shows that you've taken the time to do your research. Just an important key step, or a tip that I like to share with people. Really good idea to plan, to study, and to research. And I'm not trying to turn you to a detective, but it's a good idea to use some of this investigative work. Now, the next thing you're going to want to do is, like, the first paragraph, really, truly, the first paragraph of this letter, as you'll see from the template, is to identify the need statement, which introduces that specific problem or situation that your grant is going to help your organization to solve. And in turn, you're going to be helping them to see how the mission match with you helps to solve that problem. A really very close friend of mine, who was a very successful person in the advertising and marketing industry many years ago, who has since retired, but was also an adjunct professor. So he taught classes to lots and lots and lots of students about the industry of advertising and marketing and sales. Very successful guy. One of the things that I always found interesting, and I had actually attended one of his sessions many years ago, um, was that in the world of advertising, the single most important thing that you can focus on is to solve one problem and one problem only. And that's one of the reasons why, in the very beginning of this process, we talked about taking your wish list, identifying a specific goal, breaking that goal into tasks and steps, and then sort of building and understanding how those things were going to help you to achieve really overcoming this need or this problem or this situation that exists that you want to go and go after. One of the things I always do with my clients that I work with one on one is I talk with them about creating a needs analysis, a description of the current problem or issue or situation, a description of the outcome that you want to be able to achieve when you're successful in achieving your goal, assessing any barriers that would be that could be placed before you toward achieving your ideal situation, as well as take a look at any existing services that have attempted to also solve this problem in the past if they have. Whether they have successfully or not, it's good to have that information under your belt. So now one of the next things that you're going to want to do is, we've talked about this several times before, budgeting, costs, these types of things. When you are doing your due diligence regarding this foundation, one of the things that you're going to find is that they have a giving range. It's a historic giving range. Um, and the example that I use here is, let's just say that historically, this particular foundation, or one of the foundations that you're targeting, their giving range is from $10,000 to $25,000. Well, you wouldn't want to put in your letter of inquiry that you'd be requesting $50,000, because that may scare them off. It may make it so that it seems like you haven't done your homework. Just once again, it's a good idea to understand. Now, I usually say to people, depending on the size or the scope of how their project is going to impact people, and we'll talk about you know the size of the group that you're trying to help, or the scope of the problem you're trying to overcome, in a few minutes. But um, depending on that, place yourself in that giving range based on what your thoughts are. If you think you're going to be helping a lot of people, well, you might want to ask for money that's up in the top of their range. If it's a smaller group, or if it's a very focused group, well, maybe in the middle. I don't ever require, or don't ever recommend that you ask for the low end of the giving range. First, because it looks like you don't, once again, have a lot of confidence in your project. Secondly, they want to be able to give to the higher levels, because that's less work that they have to do. So, don't feel like you're trying to be greedy when you're asking for your number. Just place yourself where you think is the right place to be. And a little tip also, if they like your project and they like working with you, it's not all that uncommon that they might say, "Hey, if we were able to give you X amount of dollars, which is more than you're asking for, what could you do to help either more people, or would it help you to get closer to your ultimate goal?" We'll talk about that a little bit more later as well, but in a future video. Um, Also, be very specific in round numbers. And the example I use here on the screen is $50,000 versus $50,013, because this letter is not the place to be laying out the budget. That's down the road a couple of steps. Right now, what you're doing with this letter is you're just garnering interest. So you're showing that you've done your homework, that you know what their giving range is, that you know that they are a tight match to your mission, and you put all those things together, and now that's what's going into this letter. Now, who's going to benefit? We just talked about that. You want to make sure that in this letter that you are able to identify either the total numbers, or the total numbers of people, as an example, that you're going to be able to help, or homes, or communities, or states, or whatever. It's okay to be able to be very specific about the geography that you are going to focus on, whether it's a small community, or whether it's a larger city or metro area, or a state, or a region of the country. Make sure you spell that out. If it's a demographic, if it's a minority area, or if it's one group over another, if it's a specific niche that you're going to be able to help, as well as if you actually can identify the group size that you're going to be helping, This is a great place to put that information in a brief statement. The little note at the bottom is this is the case where bigger is definitely better, because as we've said before, with regard to foundations, they're looking to help fund projects to help the greatest number of people that they can. So now, here we are. Now we're talking about when is all this great stuff going to happen? All the way through this letter so far, you're sort of they're reading down, and they're getting kind of enthusiastic, and they're feeling themselves becoming a part of this. One thing that's important is that you show them your clarity and your commitment by having an end date. With each part, as a matter of fact, if you're able to identify their key steps, and those steps are dated, that you have a sort of a progression that you've already built. Again, it's showing that you've done your homework. Foundations are very impressed by statements of clarity and commitment. It makes them feel much better. And we've talked about this before as well, nobody likes to talk about failure, but foundations have usually been around for many years. They are pragmatic and practical. They understand that the largest portion of projects that they fund, they're going to have done their homework. They're counting on you to have done yours. Together, you're gonna sort of join forces to help solve a problem and help people. But they also understand that sometimes things happen that are out of everybody's control, and a project doesn't necessarily achieve the ends that it wants, or it could perhaps even fail. To that degree, when you're able to put clarity and definition, and in this case, dates, it helps the foundation feel comfortable about making that positive decision to work with you, because if in fact there was a failure of some type, they can comfortably go before their board and say, if we saw this same information from a similar group in the future, with all this information, we'd feel comfortable and we would fund it again. And their board would understand that and accept it and move forward. So now, once we've done that, now we've got this plan. We know what we want to achieve. We need to put together a very strong, compelling, concluding statement that sort of lays out how this is all going to unfold. I like to refer to it as painting a word picture for the reader so that they can feel part of the equation. We've used the word transformative in weeks gone by, and helping to transform a person from an outsider, a non participant, a bystander who didn't know anything about this, to now becoming transformed into participating in this mission, and almost giving them a reason to want to become part of the solution. And that's what your concluding statement is going to be. Now, each of these steps that we have just talked about, from who you're identifying as the person that you want to write the letter to, and what the need is going to be, and what the cost is going to be that you're asking them to participate in, and laying out before them how the plan's going to unfold, so on and so forth. All of these things are part of a letter that you want to be able to really put into one page. And the template letter that I have provided to you shows you how to do that. And if you have any questions, of course, you can let me know. Now, of course, if you have any questions at any time, or if you need more information, you can always reach me at glc3d.com, or you can call me on my phone number, which is there. And I want to thank you for being a part of milestone number 5. I look forward to talking to you for milestone number 6. Have a great day, and thank you.